Jai Anilo Premadano Paramakacho Madhava Kunjarihari Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're continuing to speak on the prayer by Narottam Das Thakur, Sri Guru Vandana, and we are up to the last verse, so we can all chant responsibly. Sri Guru karuna-sindhu Tamal bandhu Lokanatha lokera jivana Aha Prabhu Koradoya Dehamora Parajoya Vicha Sukhusu Tribhuvana Sri Guru, the spiritual master, karuna, mercy, sindhu, ocean, Tamal, fallen, janhara, persons, bandhu, friend, lokanatha, protector of the people, lokera jivana, life and soul of the people. Aha Prabhu, O my Lord, Koda, do, Doya, mercy, Deha, please give, Morha, to me, Padachaya, shelter of the lotus feet, Ehe, now, Jasa, fame, Gushu, be preached, Sri Bhuvana, in the three worlds. Translation. O spiritual master, ocean of mercy and friend of the fallen souls, you are the teacher of everyone and the life of all people. O master, be merciful unto me and give me the shelter of your lotus feet. May your glories now be proclaimed throughout the three worlds. There has been a commentary by Krishna Consciousness, but on this text there is none. So we'll say a few things and we may go on from there. So, Sri Guru karuna-sindhu, the spiritual master's mercy is like an ocean. What is the main quality of an ocean? It cannot be, the contents of the ocean cannot be measured. And so the spiritual master's mercy cannot be measured. The original spiritual master is Lord Nityananda Prabhu. And we see his mercy exemplified in the deliverance of Jagai and Madai, who were extremely sinful, although they were born to Brahmin families and not weak, and so might be said to have had the best of births. They fell down to the point of committing every conceivable sinful act, and still they were delivered. How? By the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu. When Lord Chaitanya, who was playing the role of the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Judge, came to cut off their head with his Sudarshan Chakra, they were saved by the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu. I have mentioned on a number of occasions, and I'll repeat again, the story of one disciple of Prabhupada who was acting in a very nonsensical way and had created so many problems for us. And Prabhupada asked me to bring that person to him. And I said to Srila Prabhupada that, you've already tried so many times to help this person, and he keeps abusing, misusing the opportunities that you give him. Don't you think that it's pointless? And Prabhupada raised his eyebrows and said, you do not understand the nature of Lord Nityananda's mercy. There's no limit to it. So, there are many examples, of course, of this extension of mercy. Haridas Thakur immediately comes to mind how he was beaten and flogged through 23 villages. And the only thing that worried him was not the pain that he was feeling, because it is said that if 3 villages an ordinary person would have been killed, he was so mercilessly beaten. And yet he tolerated it. And the reason was that he was very worried about those who were hitting him, what would happen to them. And when finally they said, if you don't die, then our lives will be taken by the Muslim leaders, then Haridas Thakur immediately apparently became dead. And they threw his body into the Ganga. And he said, I don't want to give you any trouble. And he immediately became like a dead person. And then some miles later on, his body floated down and he came out of his trance and appeared to be normal again. In the Mahaprakash manifestation of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, where he showed himself to be the Supreme Lord, he told Haridas Thakur that actually I took the whipping upon my own body, and then he showed the scars on his own body. So that is why you did not feel what was happening to you. So the spiritual master similarly suffers on behalf of Krishna, we can say. He takes our sinful reactions, the karma, and therefore he is considered to be the shelter for the conditioned soul. Nevertheless, we should not take undue advantage of the mercy we get from our spiritual master. Prabhupada said once, Krishna can forgive, he can forgive again. He can forgive again, but he said that a third time, whatever he may not forgive. So we should not think that this can go on and on and on and on. Take unfair advantage just is considered a offense against the holy name of the Lord, particularly as it falls within the category of committing sinful activities on the strength of chanting. In other words, if you think that because I have heard my spiritual master is an ocean of mercy, so I can do so many nonsense things and still he will extend his mercy to me, that type of mentality is not acceptable. And Prabhupada said it sometimes. He has commented that sometimes that is the worst offense against the holy name. So, to balance the statement about the mercy of the Guru, we should also state one should not take unfair advantage of it. Neither one should think that the spiritual master is an ordinary conditioned soul. That is also a mistake. Sometimes we have dilemmas because we see that the spiritual master or our devotion to him competes with our feelings of devotion for others. But we should understand that we have accepted our spiritual master as our guide, and therefore we have to remain faithful to him. And if sometimes we become strained in terms of our allegiance, we should always rule in favor of our Guru. That may be considered a line, but that faithfulness and loyalty is required for someone to have unflinching devotion. Adhama Janava Bandhu. Bandhu means friend. So the spiritual master has two addresses here. On the one hand, he's addressed as Prabhu or master, and on the other hand, he's addressed as Bandhu or friend. He's a friend of the fallen souls. What is real friendship? Real friendship is to help someone in need. If someone is a fallen soul, surely he is in great need. So a friend is a person who lends hand to the fallen to lift them up. A friend shares whatever he or she has with another. So the spiritual master shares whatever he has received from his guru. There is a inheritance. It's described in Chaitanya Chaitamrita. There's a vast treasure house, a storehouse, which is lying there as the claim of each sincere person. And as a disciple, you have every right to claim the inheritance from the Guru. That inheritance is all of the wealth and knowledge, the transcendental knowledge and realization that is coming down through the chain of the cyclic succession. And the disciple has a right to this. But you have to know how to get it. You have to ask for it. You have to be also worthy of it. Because when a father has some wealth and wants to leave it for his daughter or his son, he's not going to allow it to get spoiled. If he doesn't think that the children are worthy, he's not going to let whatever wealth there is accumulated through the forefathers to be spoiled by an unqualified child. So he tries his best to make the children qualified in order to be able to bestow upon them what is rightfully theirs. It is rightfully yours. Taking birth, this is the second birth, taking birth within the rite of initiation. You have a right to all that wealth, but you have to not misuse it. Otherwise, it may be taken away. So friendship. Another point is that the spiritual master here is our Prabhu. And in the spiritual world, the spiritual master becomes a friend. And the relationship between guru, disciple, and the spiritual world is one of friendship. But we should not unnecessarily become overly familiar in this world. When one disciple asked Prabhupada a question, do you ever feel the separation from your spiritual master? Prabhupada said, that is not for you to ask. So that is not for you to ask. In other words, when persons became too inquisitive, I would rather say when persons who were not qualified became too inquisitive, Prabhupada shut the door. He would not respond. I'm sure if they were more qualified, he would have said everything. But he did not, because he understood that they might not properly be able to appreciate all that he was feeling. So we have to become worthy of the spiritual master revealing those things which are made most sacred to us. Lokanath Lokera Jivan. This Lokanath, of course, is Lokanath Goswami, is the guru of Narottam Das Thakur. His samadhi is there in Vrindavan, nearby the Radha temple. But Lokanath, of course, also means the protector of the people. Loka means this world, or it also means people of this world, and Hanta means the Lord or protector. So The Guru is our protector on behalf of Krishna. The Guru protects. How does the Guru protect? By showing us the path of Dharma. He shows us the path of religious activity. And he helps us to see what to distinguish right from wrong. Narottam says, "Be merciful unto me and give me the shelter." Deha mora pada choya, give me the shelter of your lotus feet. So the shelter of the lotus feet of the spiritual master is sometimes described as a soothing shelter, cooling shelter. The disciple always aspires for that shelter. And may your glories now be proclaimed throughout the world. Evi Jasa Gusu Sri Gurunanda. So this is the prayer. The next prayer, there are more prayers for this song. The next is Sri Vaishnava Mahima. Mahima means glories. Sri Vaishnava Mahima. The glories of the Vaishnava. And it goes like this. Vaishnava Charana Vrenu Bhushana Koriya Tanu Jaha Vaite Anubhavavai Marjana Vaya Bhajana Sadhu Sange Anukshana Ajnana Abhidya Parvajaya. So we normally end here the song, but the song goes on. And it says, I decorate my body with the dust from the lotus feet of the Vaishnavas, because by this one can achieve transcendental realizations. By constantly associating with the devotees, one's cultivation of devotional service is purified and one can conquer nations. And there's a purport by Sri Krishna Consciousness. The words Jahahoite refer to the person who has decorated himself with the dust of the lotus feet of the devotees. Avidya, in this case, refers to the desires of Chatur Varga, the four purposes of life, Artha, Dharma, Kama, and Moksha. So the dust of the feet of the devotees, it is said that to get the dust from the feet of the devotees, to get the water which has washed the feet of the devotees, and to get the remnants of the foodstuffs left by the devotees, these three are the most valuable source of transcendental mercy for anyone to get. We see an example of Narad Muni simply by getting the remnants of food left by the pure devotees of the Lord, the Bhaktivedanta. He became a great transcendentalist. So we see what mercy there is in this act. The dust of the feet of a pure devotee are so valuable. And it's said to be, it's interesting, the word bhushana, decorate, is decoration. Of course, we put so much decoration on our head. We wear nice clothing, or we decorate our faces. But here it's said that the ultimate decoration for the head is the dust from the feet of a pure devotee. There's no better decoration. You can think about this every day, right? When you're decorating yourself, you should say, do I have a little bottle of dust, foot dust, from the pure devotees, to put some of that on you. That's the ultimate decoration. And here it also says that the association of the Vaishnavas purifies one's cultivation of devotional service. That's very interesting, isn't it? Because in the process of devotional service, it's described in Chaitanya Chaitamrita that the Bhakti Lata, the creeper of devotion, is surrounded by so many other weeds, which appear to be like the devotional creeper. And these are mentioned here: Artha, Dharma, Kama, and Moksha. And it is a fact that if you talk with people who are interested in religion, it's very hard sometimes for them to distinguish Uttama Bhakti, pure Bhakti, Kaivala Bhakti, from Mishra Bhakti, Jnana Mishra Bhakti, or Karma Mishra Bhakti. In other words, it's very hard for them to distinguish, for example, what is the difference between coming to an arti or chanting Hare Krishna as opposed to doing your duty to your family, or as opposed to so many other forms of dharma. But we know there's a great difference. One of the holy name offenses against the holy name is to compare the chanting of Hare Krishna with any of the activities mentioned in the Karma Kanda or Jnana Kanda sections of Scripture. And so, for example, moksha, liberation. Certainly most people hold liberation to be the highest principle of spiritual life. But in the Nectar of Devotion, if you read, you'll see that pure bhakti minimizes the importance of liberation. It's considered to be insignificant. Mukti Kulitanjali Seva Tesman. The mukti, or liberation, waits at the door of the house of bhakti as a doorkeeper, or as a maidservant, or a servant, a doorkeeper. Liberation is not considered to be, moksha especially, is not considered to be so significant as bhakti. In other words, we don't pray specifically for moksha, we pray for bhakti. A devotee's prayer is, let me serve you, Lord, birth after birth. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu makes that statement, right? Birth after birth. But moksha, the desire for liberation, means I don't want to take birth again. Now, we also recognize that as valuable. We don't want to act. But if Krishna desires, the devotee will do so. A devotee wants pure service to Krishna without condition. Not even the desire for liberation, salvation. Because that's often so considered a selfish motive. Kama, dharma, the word dharma, so many types of dharmas. Homanas, laws of men, manu dharma, are just so many different types of religious duties to perform. And these are all classified here as avidya. And it's said that if the only way to get free from this type of confusion is to associate with pure devotees. Because a pure devotee is on the path of pure devotion and will not become sidetracked by the association of such pure Vaishnavas. You will come to understand what is pure bhakti. And it's very important, because if you don't perform pure bhakti, you can't get the lotus feet of Radha Krishna. You can't get the lotus feet of Mahaprabhu. So this type of avidya is destroyed in association with the saintly Vaishnavas. Then, there's another text, but I perhaps will wait for the next class, because it's called Sri Rupa and Sanatana Tam Mahima. It's the glories of Sri Rupa and Sri Sanatana, which will be the next class. And it goes on for a while, for 3 verses. And then after that comes Shuddha Bhakti Tattva, the truth about pure devotional service. So we will cover these two subjects into two more classes. Let's see if anyone has any questions. We'll stop here. Yes.
We spoke about in the spiritual master-disciple relationship becomes a friendship. But doesn't the disciple maintain the consciousness that
No.
spiritual master?
No. It's no longer a relationship of guru-disciple. It becomes friend to friend.
Is the history forgotten?
If it's needed to be remembered, but why should one? That's like asking, do you remember in the spiritual world about your trips in the material world? Do you? Do you think that when you're in the spiritual world, you have to dwell on the millions of births you had here?
I just heard the Prabhupada said it was like waking up from a bad dream.
Yeah, so when you wake up from a bad dream, you don't want to keep thinking about the dream.
But you remember.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
Not deep.
No, you don't. No, not even detailed. You don't put it out of your mind. People don't continually dwell on bad dreams. They try to forget them. And similarly, the relationship with Guru, because we see that in the example of, the example we have from the prayers and songs, as an example is in terms of the Goswamis and their service, their eternal service to Srimati Radharani. And, Sanatana and Rupa, who are, especially in the case of Rupa Goswami and Sanatana, they are, the foremost maidservants of Radharani. And others assist them. But their relationship is not like a guru and disciple. It's like a friend and another friend. It's in a friendly mood. They're the same age, and they have the same service mood. So it's loving dealings.
But is the relationship still one of assisting them or spiritual master?
Yes, it is. But it's done more in friendship. The exchange is one of friendship, not of master-servant relationship. There's still the recognition of the closeness of the person who was your guru to the worshipable object, Krishna or Radha or whoever it may be according to the relationship. So that person is close, and therefore you come closer to the worshipable object by the friendship you have with that person, or by the mood of service you have to that person. Friends also serve each other, but the mood of friendship and service is different than the mood of a servant and a master. Another question?
Yes. The guru and disciple, how does that relationship exist?
Well, the way we understand the guru and disciple, it's a guru and disciple of different races. How does the relationship exist? The example has to be, we have to get the answer from Jatadharma. Bhaktivedanta Swami discusses this in Jatadharma. And in different ways, the guru will manifest relationships that are appropriate. And there, one was in the relationship, I believe it's been a while since I read fraternity, and one was in the relationship of conjugal, and the guru took appropriate forms. So it's possible to take many forms. I would have to read. I don't have my Jatadharma here, but I believe what I said is accurate. My memory is accurate.
Regarding facade.
I think the point is made. It's just, you will see your spiritual master so and so. You will see And I think the person sees their guru in that word form, or in that particular form that's suitable for the relationship they have with Krishna.
You're talking about the guru as an individual or the guru as a principle?
Yeah. I mean, I would like to read some more before I answer this question, so I don't give you an accurate answer. It's been a while since I read that book, and I'm pretty tired this morning, so the combination is not making for good memory. If someone has Jada Dharma, then do you have a copy of Jada Dharma?
On my computer.
If you look through it, then tomorrow or the next day you can give us the answer. Yeah, let's discuss it. Figure out the book.
So I think we'll describe that the relationship with the guru is always on records.
Always on records. Yes, thank you. And this is why Vaisnavas are essential. Yes, Sri Prabhu wants to emphasize the point that after such a discussion we should reiterate the fact that in this world the relationship is always one reference. In other words, if you hear this fact that, oh, well, one day we'll be friends, and you start to bring that friendship into this world and then in a fraternal ras, then as I said, then it will be offensive. Yeah, you know, the Guru does not allow that. Maybe more friendly. The Shiksha Guru relationship, especially, allows for more friendliness. But especially in the Diksha Guru relationship, it's more of one reverence. And the Shiksha Guru relationship sometimes can be more, but still it is reverential. The Prabhupada said he always had that. But I do think that at 10 years, 20 years gone by, we would have seen, you know, at least Prabhupada might have said to that person, that is not for you to inquire. Of course, I don't think someone who was advanced would inquire like that. The question itself, you know, do you ever feel separation from your guru? That's not right. I mean, we ask that out of our ignorance. But it is prying into the feelings of one's group. And if he volunteers that information, well, very good.
We also read some Narvani's instruction that says that one should cultivate an attitude of firm friendship with the spiritual master. It just says that. How should you understand that?
Well, that statement, that is a balance to what Sri Radha was saying. Cultivating firm friendship and at the same time one reverence. The two are really not very compatible. Friendly feelings and one reverence are not very compatible. Can anybody answer? Yes, Mahima.
I think you answered it in the sense that
I'm glad I did. Tell me what I said. Anybody say?
he's the friend of the fallen. So we can always think he's my best friend because he's saving me, but it doesn't necessarily mean that I give up the wrong records.
Okay, that's nice. We can think in terms of he's a friend of the fallen, and in that sense he's my best well-wisher friend. But that doesn't make us give up the feeling for him.
Sometimes a disciple, when Prabhupada's disciples will lose faith in their spiritual master and then they try to take shelter as another institution of one of Prabhupada's God nephews. And they feel like this is helping their spiritual life because they're getting more inspiration there with their heart wasn't satisfied.
I don't think that people necessarily go for shiksha to somebody else because they lost faith in their guru. I don't think that that's accurate. I don't believe that to be accurate at all. In fact, I think it's quite normal that our training is not complete, that we should take further shiksha. And I think it's very unfortunate that this world doesn't know how to recognize the need of disciples for shiksha gurus. And they somehow think that may indicate lack of faithfulness. I don't think that's exactly the rule. Although I would agree that it can become a disregard if one has to leave one's institution to find such shiksha, then one is treading on very risky ground. Most religions are like that. The institution is also very important. And I think Prabhupada made ISKCON institution quite important. He often said, ISKCON is my body. And, I think most religious institutions feel that way about their institution. Catholic Church certainly does, the Buddhist Center certainly does. ISKCON doesn't, and Mahima institutions do also. So going outside of your institution for shiksha definitely is risky. And it can lead to faithlessness in Prabhupada. I think that's true. But I don't think that in and of itself, taking shiksha from another person indicates that one has lack of faith in one's guru. In fact, it may be that one has great faith in one's guru and one wants to understand one's guru's instructions better. The principle of shiksha guru is certainly there throughout our literature. It's spoken about a great deal. You have Shiva Maharaj's book on the shiksha guru available from everybody. Do you sell that? Where's it? Do you sell that book in the gift shop? Huh? Shiksha Guru is called by Shiva Maharaj. You don't have it? You should get that book. In fact, you should meet me and I'll try to remember some other good books. Because your gift shop is the place where everybody can get these books. You don't have to order many copies, 5 or 10 copies. But that's an important book, and it does discuss about the Shiksha Guru, the importance of Shiksha Guru. And we don't have much of a culture in ISKCON about Shiksha Guru. Everybody thinks I'm getting everything I need from my Shiksha Guru. That's not very likely. And I think that Prabhupada also recognized that, and that's why he spoke a great deal about it. And Vanilla?
Sure, Gurudev, in your first class, you spoke how when the disciple becomes qualified, he or she receives the knowledge about their spiritual identity from their guru. So if the spiritual master is not physically present and the disciple becomes...
Say it again?
Let's say that the disciple becomes qualified for this knowledge to be revealed, but the guru is not physically present. So how does he...
The question is that if the gurus, when the disciples qualify, the spiritual master reveals his disciples' spiritual relationship with Krishna. What happens if the disciple becomes qualified, but the guru is no longer physically present? We should understand that the guru can always communicate with the disciple. That's the first point. That the spiritual master is not restricted by physical vapu, but can become in so many ways to reveal. And how the spiritual master reveals is in many different ways. Sometimes the revelation will come by the mercy of Guru through the chanting, Prabhupada said. That means the holy name. By the mercy of Guru, the disciple will chant and gradually understand. Sometimes the disciple may get revelation by through the agency of another person. A Shiksha Guru can also reveal. But generally it comes by understanding gradually. One feels the inclination in a certain way, and then by cultivation, gradually it becomes more and more clear. The Prabhupada answers this question directly by saying, the spiritual master will instruct through the holy name. That means through the process of chanting Hare Krishna, one will get it gradually realized in all the details. Now there's another system which is followed by the Babajis and Radhakrishna, where the Guru directly gives at the beginning the disciples name, form, age, dress, and service in the spiritual world. But that's not the system that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur recommended. So there's a debate among the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. The Babajis of Radhakrishna, who are also Gaudiya Vaishnavas, they follow that system. And the followers of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati don't follow that system. They wait for revelation. The Babajis argue that you can't do sadhana properly unless you know those details. And the followers of the Saraswatis, the followers of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, they argue that you can't meditate like that when you're in a conditioned stage. And if you do, it will simply be a caricature. It will become problematic. So there's a different approach argued by each camp. And the Babajis actually said the Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's line is not proper because he didn't get this type of Siddha Pranali. It's called Siddha Pranali mantra. He didn't get a mantra from his guru where he was given all these details. Therefore, he cannot give it to others. But the followers of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati don't agree with that. And in fact, there is no instruction directly from the original 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan in regard to doing what the Babajis do. This process of it's called Manjari Sadhana, specifically the way they describe it, it came after the time of the 6 Goswamis. So these are details which have just confused most people sitting here, but anyway. We follow the line of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. Mahima.
I don't know if this relates to what you're talking about, but are you familiar with the controversy between those who say that we must have a diksha line intact for the mantra?
Yeah, that's what I'm referring to.
Well, they trace out the disciplic succession through Diksha Guru.
Through Diksha, but their idea of Diksha is not what we understand by Diksha. Their idea of Diksha is like I described it, where the Guru, at the time of initiation, tells you who you are in the spiritual world. That's what their idea of Diksha is. But obviously, that's not our process. We say that comes through revelation, through qualification, not simply by telling someone.
You're mentioning about the foot dust, the water, and the prasad. That's pretty much the Krishna says. So is that a reference to the spiritual master, any Vaishnava, or only elevated Vaishnava?
The question is whether foot dust, water, or food remnants are equally beneficial from the Guru, another elevated Vaishnava, or any Vaishnava. No, they're potent according to the level of advancement of who they come from.
So let's say there's some very new devotee who's just beginning Krishna consciousness, and I take one of these items from him. Will I become contaminated by that? So should I?
Well, that depends, of course, on your power of digestion, whether you take some. I mean, I used to sit in the Los Angeles temple, when I was a new devotee, I would sit next to the place where the guests, the Sunday feast guests, would leave their plates. And I would just take this samosa. I didn't take the samosas that were bitten, but I did take the whole samosas. But you could argue it was from their plate. I don't know if it affected me adversely or not. I got a lot of samosas. I have a whole week's stock of samosas. Yes, at least 30 or 40 samosas, which I keep in my drawer. And every day I eat a few samosas. But I wasn't thinking about making spiritual advancement from them. I like to eat samosas. Yes, we should take the remnants of advanced Vaishnava. That really is the point. And actually, no one should want to leave remnants. It's said that even a sannyasi cannot leave remnants, but the guru may leave remnants for the disciple. But otherwise, everyone should finish everything on their plate, and one should not allow people to touch their feet, and one should not allow people to wash their feet. But the guru may allow these things to the disciple out of his closest mercy. And then Mahima realized he was cooking something. So much talking about samosas. There's a certain level of realization. For example, as you become more advanced in Krishna consciousness, you can understand a certain amount about a person's previous life or lives by studying their consciousness. And Prabhupada says this, and I think it's not only Prabhupada says it, but there's a text in the Bhagavatam that says that you can, by studying a person presently, you can understand their past and their future. So there is a certain amount of ability to actually understand about someone's past if you can read their consciousness properly.
I was thinking more in Srila Prabhupada's case, because sometimes...
I mean, do you mean, can the spiritual master tell you what you were doing yesterday at 10 a.m.? I don't think that's what it means. I mean, there is some yogic power. I think that's a yogic power, if anything, more than even, that some yogi may have such a mystic perfection that they can do such a thing. But what are you referring to, particularly Prabhupada?
Well, sometimes during Prabhupada's time, there's questions of what happened 20, 30 years ago, even when Prabhupada was present. People have asked me that.
And what are you mean you're asking you if you can remember the past?
No, if Prabhupada was pre-Kaligyan, would have been aware. Well,
I mean, I've heard some sadhus say that Prabhupada was pre-Kaligyan. But Prabhupada said on certain occasions, if you don't tell me something, then how will I know? Why did he ask for reports? For example, he asked me to write a report every week. I was his disciple, and I was a leader and manager of his movement. He wanted to report every week. Well, if he's treated Kaligyan, why did he want to report? I could say just so that you would get the benefit of reporting. I don't bother. That's not my experience. I think Sri Kalagya means that, you understand the past, present, and future according to what Krishna needs and wants you to understand. Could Prabhupada do it? All right, yes. I'll say yes. The spiritual master can't do it. At least I'll say he could do it. Did he do it? Well, he didn't indicate that he did it. The Guru knows but there's other times where Prabhupada was asked, you know everything. He said, I'm not Krishna. I'm not God. So he didn't seem to map the meaning of Trikalakya to mean, that I know everything like God says. That's what God's power is. Guru is not God. He's a servant of God. And he knows what he knows by the grace of God. But he's not God. Sorry, you had a question.
Yes, David. Beyond the point where someone is practicing very sincerely, following regular principles of chanting 16 rounds, any devotee beyond that point, isn't it dangerous to judge their advancement in shrine?
Is it dangerous to judge a devotee's advancement? Well, everything is, I mean, the word danger, what does it mean? I guess you mean committing offenses. The danger might be if you think someone's not advanced. But the judgment is not wrong. To judge is not wrong. In the sense that you have to be able to discriminate. There are symptoms of advancement, which you can see in a person. So, I'm not quite sure what you mean, but I think that the problem with what you're saying is that it's good in one sense what you're saying. You're saying don't judge people and become offensive towards them. They may be advanced. But on the other hand, what you're saying, the danger of what you're saying is that it leaves everybody in this sort of, this wishy-washy type of existence where, yeah, be humble to all Vaishnavas. I agree with that. At the same time, we give special respect to those who we consider advanced. According to what you're saying, we won't discriminate an advanced devotee from a neophyte person. So I think somehow the two have to be balanced. Ladies, some questions?
Sugar, is it proper to teach children to respect their elders by their touching their feet? Sometimes you're into that anymore.
That'd be nice. That's a nice process. It's not in our culture of America, but it's certainly part of the Indian culture. It's part of Vedic culture that children should touch their parents' feet when they get up, when they first see them. You're supposed to do that with any elder, any respectable elder. You should show respect to them. But one of the ways to do it is to touch their feet. But the parents should act in a worthy way also. It's no use saying, touch my feet, if you're not acting as a proper father and mother. So it has to go both ways. That's true of any type of authority. It can't be misused. If it's properly done, then surely those who are dependents should always touch the feet and show respect in whatever way they can to those who are they dependent upon. That's our system. That is the Vedic culture. That is being destroyed in the modern world today. Like, for example, a child should never address their parent by their name. That's disrespectful. You're supposed to say, like, father or mother. You don't say, and I sometimes see that children call it in America. I've seen children address their parents by their name. And that's not, I can't imagine. There's this tendency in modern societies to sort of make everything one. Bring everything down to the same status. Everything is on the same status as pure spirit soul. All living beings have equal status as parts and parcels of Krishna. Spiritually, potentially, eternally. But within this world, there's distinctions have to be made. So simultaneously, one and different. That's Chinta.
Is it also appropriate for children to take abundance of foodstuffs and plates?
Yes, it's proper for the children to take the remnants from their parents' plate. One time, to give you an example, we were staying at a place, and the famous Gita, in India, Gita Press in Gorakhpur. So we were staying at the guest, Prabhupada and a few of us, at the guest house of Hanuman Prasad Kodak, who was the founder of Gita Press. And they had cows there. And the devotees would, sometimes when they finished eating, they'd give the food, the plate, it was a leaf plate, and they'd put the leaf plate and everything else and feed it to the cows. When Prabhupada heard about that, he became very angry. He said, you can eat the remnants from the cows, but you can't give them your remnants. because the cow is mother. You can't feed your mother. Of course, out of affection, a mother will eat what her children leave. That's out of affection. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with the parents eating whatever their children. That is out of affection. But actually, from a respect point of view, but out of affection, that happens sometimes, especially with a young child. The young children only eat a little. Sometimes the mother's feeding the child and feeding herself in the same place. That's out of love. Love doesn't have such a boundary. There's no boundaries like that in love. But I can only cite the example with the cows. Even in India, when you're making chapatis, if you're living in a village, who do you give the first chapati to, Mirabha? The cow. I saw Krishna Baba, my disciple in Vrindavan, whenever she makes chapatis, first thing she does, the first chapati, she goes out on the street and looks for cows. First she feeds the cows, then she'll feed her guru. The cow is so respected. Here, where are you going to go? Go out on the street here. What do you find? You won't find any cows.
Cowboys.
Cowboys. Huh?
Spot.
What's that?
Spot.
Who is that?
Little man spot.
No, I don't know if you get the same dinner. She thinks you get the same. Yes, Mom.
And Corey, when the son, at the age of 13, he's given, at least in Bhakti families, he's given that samskara. At that point, the mother touches his feet. He becomes the man and she respects him.
Mahima says in Jagannath Puri, he just read my book from Jagannath Puri, sharing his wisdom with us now. He says that in Jagannath Puri, when a boy reaches the age of 13, then he gets the sacred thread. And at that point, as a twice-born person, the mother touches his feet, and he becomes a man of the family. Huh?
13.
13.
Judaism.
In Jewish tradition say. Someone has a terrible call. Who is that? Now everybody. Something's bug is going around the kids. Okay, so we'll stop here. And what's the program tonight? Is there a program tonight? No program. No. Is there a program tomorrow morning? What time is the initiation ceremony? 10. Okay. So okay, well, I guess we could do a class and initiation ceremony. We'll have to see. I need to initiate the beads. I need the beads. Sure. Anyway, come for the class. There will be class. Most likely I'll give it, but I have to just see. But I think I'll give the class at the same time. We'll go on because we have to complete this whole song, and there's at least 2 or 3 more days worth of lectures. Okay. Mantra Prabhupada to Vaisnava, Vipasa to the Shanti Tanam Prabhupada, Prabhupada to the Namo Namo.
Shri Gurudev Ki Jai.